Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let the record show it is 6 p.m. It's August the 11th, and the Durant City Council meeting is now in session. And everybody, please forgive me. I've got a frog in my throat. I've got laryngitis, so I'm going to try to continue. If I can't, Steve, you might have to jump over here. First item on here, we're going to have our invocation. And James Dalton, are you here? We're going to ask James if everyone will please stand while James Dalton gives our invocation and remain standing. And Councilman Morris will lead us in the flag salute.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the day, the breath of life you give us, the health you give us. Father, we lift up our council to you tonight. We pray that you give them wisdom as they make decisions that affect our city. Lord, we just pray for continued health as this COVID situation continues. Lord, be with the ones that will be returning to school. Father, keep them safe. We thank you for family. Be with our service people. Keep them safe as well, regardless of where they're stationed, Father. We thank you for every good thing, especially for family. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Shear,
Here.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Here.
Councilmember Morris,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Here.
Mayor Groby.
Here, everyone's here. We have a quorum, so we will proceed. I must say, I'm proud. It seems like that no one has ever missed a meeting. The first item of business, or order of business, is our consent items, number 1. And they are items number 4A through F. And as everyone is aware, we can approve them as one item. We can pull out an item. Does anyone have any item they wish to pull out of consent items? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent items.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent items. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Consent items all approved. Number 2, we have none that were removed from consent. We'll go to number 3, information items. And I think maybe our city manager wanted to say something.
Well, if I could I have the new employees or recently transferred employees stand up? So I'll start at the left. John Kane, he's our new street superintendent. He came from Colorado. We are glad to have him. So.
A little cooler in Colorado, isn't it?
And in emergency management, we got Mr. Izell, who's moved up. So appreciate it. I don't know what the PD is going to do without you. And then in admin, we have Blake Hoffman. So proud to have him.
We want to welcome every one of you, and we're still proud of all the ones we still have too. I will, next item, if no one has any questions about
Excuse
any
me,
of the information.
I'd like to ask one question. I see Lisa's here, Economic Development. Lisa, as I reviewed your report, there was a reference to a real estate committee. Help me out. Who does that consist of?
Jeff Hammock, Jeff Shattuck, and Brandon Johnson.
Are those all DIA members?
They're all DIA members.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jerry. I was going to say Jerry, the Councilman Tomlinson. Item number 4, we now move to administration. Number A, consider approval of resolution 2020-30, extending the state of emergency until September the 9th, 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there any discussion on this item?
This just continues what we've been doing.
Okay.
Following state guidance.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Item number B, consider approval of ordinance 1913, amending section 110.023, itinerant merchants regulated and licensed at the current code of ordinance and declaring an emergency. Discussion.
Currently, anybody that comes in and sells items that do not have a business here, they have to have an itinerant vendor's license. And what this would do is give those local farmers who grow produce and sell them in the city, it would establish that they have a different license fee of $100. So, but they would have to grow their produce in Bryan County and reside in Bryan County.
What's the,
Right now, it's $1,000.
for an itinerant, it's 1,000?
Yes, sir.
And this was instigated by Mr. Rhodes bringing his melons into town, which he's been doing for 50
We
years.
usually go through that, but I didn't realize they had to get $1,000 permit.
Yes, sir. But this just brings it in line with what the business license is,
Yeah.
$100. So
Very
I
good,
think that's reasonable.
very good.
Okay, do we have any further discussion, or do we have a motion?
I move we approve ordinance 1913, amending section 110:023, itinerant merchants.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
We're doing actually.
Section 1,
Section
excuse
one.
me, Section 1, enactment.
Yes.
Do we have a second? Or motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson, Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Gurke.
Aye, motion carries. Number B, this would be emergency clause. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote on the emergency clause?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson, Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Gurke.
Aye. Emergency clause, motion carries. Number C, under administration, consider purchase of watch guard vehicle and/or body mounted cameras. Chief Hauser.
Well, this is exciting times. Thank you for hearing this agenda item. The city manager, when he come, we had a discussion one time. He says, so do y'all have body cameras and cameras in the cars? I was like, oh, absolutely not. We don't. We have never been able to fund those. And I think he was aghast. Would that be the right word? Everywhere I've ever been, they've had body cameras and car cameras. That'd be a nice thing to have. And Mayor, if you remember a year or so ago, maybe two, you'd asked me to look into that, and the quote was about the same, and the funding just wasn't there. The city manager had asked us to look into that, and IT director Brenton Rucker arranged some meetings with us with WatchGuard. WatchGuard, if you know, is a state contracted vendor. And the proposal before you today is to purchase 31 integrated systems. And if you remember from a presentation before, the integrated system is a car mounted system with a body worn camera as well. You turn the body camera on, the car camera comes on too, and vice versa. If the car camera comes on, the body camera comes on as well. If there's someone riding with you, so you got a two-man car, seldom happens, but it could. Then if one of the integrated systems come on, then it also turns on the partner camera as well. So that's why it's called an integrated camera system. So we're looking for 31 of those, and that'll outfit the patrol cars that's actively in patrol service. And then outside of that, looking for 19 body cameras, standalone body cameras, and that would be 15 for our reserve force, and then 2 for code enforcement as well. So before you, and is that proposal with a total cost of $284,150. Motorola did, and I say Motorola, I'll say Motorola and WatchGuard, one and the same. Motorola bought WatchGuard, Motorola is buying everybody. And they've submitted that proposal and also a lease. And it's my understanding, although I haven't talked to Ms. Chen personally about it, but she suggests option number 2 on the lease document, a 3-year lease at about $97,000 per year.
That's great news.
It
Thank
is great
you.
news.
It's
We're excited.
wonderful news. Is there any discussion?
Chief, you said lease, but at the end of the 3-year term, they're ours.
Absolutely. It's a lease purchase.
What's the life, estimated life?
Oh, that's a good question, Councilman Scherer. The
I would think it's
the warranty is a 1-year warranty. The expected life, we've seen some of these cameras last a year, some of the older models, and with the technology now, probably 4, 5, 6 years. But that is typically, that's just a guess. But if I could, and he's still here, would that be correct, Brenton?
Yes, they didn't actually give us an estimated time frame, but we could upgrade that warranty to a 3-year warranty. But just due to the cost, it raises it almost half the cost of the device itself. So it didn't make sense to include warranty into that quote.
So if it's a 3-year lease and one or 10 of them break, do we just give them back, or do they have to keep them running, or what?
No, it's a lease purchase. They're ours. Once you sign the agreement, it's our equipment. We're not renting their equipment. It's a payment plan. Just for comparison, if you will, if one of them broke, we want to go buy another one, they're roughly $6,000 for an integrated car system. If we break the body camera, which is most likely the part that's going to break before the camera, they're $900.
Mike, you might look at me funny if I ask you this, but if one of them broke, is it possible to be repaired, that we could repair it? Our esteemed.
Depends on how bad it's broken.
It does depend on how bad it's broken. The good thing about WatchGuard is in Allen, Texas. Toured their facility. They build the hardware, they build it in-house. So if there's something minor that's going wrong, we can run it down there and they'll look at it and possibly even fix it while we wait.
Also to add to that, I think the 3-year warranty bumped it up to, it was $500 per device. So it's half the cost, and we don't anticipate half of them dying. So at that point, we would just self-insure ourselves, but we do have the 1-year warranty. So if they are faulty, we're going to know. So.
Is there any further discussion? Any more questions for the chief?
I would like to make one more comment if I could.
Sure.
The purchase price of this, although it sounds astronomical, if it keeps us from having to pay out one claim, because it does decrease the city's and the officer's liability, probably making money at the end. Thank you for your consideration.
Are we
Chief-
ready for a motion?
Chief, did you make a reference to, or was that a budgeted item, or where's the money coming from for it? Is there a grant?
It was not budgeted. We will have to transfer funds.
From,
Ann already has that covered.
like from the DCUA or?
No, sir. I don't remember where it's from. Ann?
Well, because we haven't installed our New Year's budget, so after the install the budget, I'll do the adjustment.
So there'll be a budget amendment to this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
That's-
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the WatchGuard vehicle and body mounted cameras.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Is that an option 2?
For option 2.
Option 2. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, great news. Next item on our agenda, item number D, consider award of bid for retail development services to Retail Strategies, Inc. in the amount of $140,000 for a 3-year contract. Miss Lisa.
Hello. So back a month ago, we put out an RFP for retail development services, and we did receive one bid by the closing date of July the 23rd. This came from Retail Strategies, which is a company that's well known in our area. They do provide something, they provide sale or service after the sale, so to speak. We have several companies out there that just provide a lot of data and tell you how to use it, and then we're on our own. As you know, I have a lot of hats that I wear, so I was excited to get this bid in because they do provide us with a team that will tell us the data, they will tell us how to use the data, but they go out and actively recruit retail companies for us, retail and restaurants. So they are available at all of those shows that are well known in their area. They have site selectors they work with regularly. Again, they're well known in their field. The original bid came in at 45 for the first year, 45,000 for the first year, and 45,000 for each consecutive year after that. If we do want to enter into a 3-year agreement, that was originally 125,000 with, those second 2 years being only 40,000 each instead of the 45. And I'm sure you all can see this in your packets. It was included. The downtown Main Street section, if we wanted to add specialized services for the downtown district, which is very important to job recruitment, as you know, that was an additional 20,000 originally. We were able to negotiate that down, where now we have the downtown Main Street section included for only $5,000 the first year and automatically included in consecutive years after that. So there is an opt-out if we do decide to enter into a contract for 3 years. There is an opt-out each year. I've had Tom look at this. And before the end of each year that we're in, we can opt out with no penalties. However, if we do get into the middle of, say, the second or third year and we decide, we've changed our mind, we don't want this anymore, we lose any money that we have put into it at that point in the year. So we can exit the contract at any time. It's just if we still have money remaining, we lose it. So total contract price ended up being $130,000 if we want to do the total agreement with Main Street included. Or we enter no contract and do the $140,000, $50,000 the first year and $45,000 for each remaining year after that. And this is something that's budgeted. We budgeted $50,000 for this year for this project.
These funds come from the
Economic development.
economic development. I think you answered one of my questions. Tom has reviewed
Yes.
the contract. Best case is the 130 for a 3-year.
130 for 3 years, and you would pay that at $50,000 the first year and $40,000 each remaining year.
Okay, so if we started this, the first payment would be due.
The first payment would be due, correct?
Okay, and then on an annual basis.
We would pay it on an annual basis, correct?
Okay. And then I think I still read that we have a 30-day cancellation
Correct.
clause or whatever
Correct.
in that contract.
Yes, we do.
It's my opinion is there's probably not a good reason to go for anything other than the 3-year, because there is the 30-day opt-out. You sort of, you get the better rate, but you're not necessarily locked in to 3 years. It's not just a non-appropriation clause. It is a 30-day cancellation really for any reason. So if after a couple of years decide that it's not for the city anymore, you can opt out with 30 days notice without penalty. So there's not a lot of reason probably not to go for the 3-year if that's what the recommendation is.
And as you know, from many of the projects that we've worked in Durant over the years, projects are not quick. They don't happen overnight. And so there is a minimum guarantee of, so many contacts that they will make for us and try to recruit companies. So.
Lisa, help me understand too, what they'll be providing you. And I guess working with the chamber and Main Street through the DIA, but how do you take, what do we do with that, with what they provide us? What are we going to do?
Okay, so basically what we will do is if you all agree to it tonight, we get the ball rolling, get the contract signed, work out the payment arrangements. They have a team that they provide to us that I will work closely with. I identify local partners to be on my team to represent Durant here. You mentioned a couple of those. We definitely want Chamber and Main Street involved in that and some others. We'll bring some real estate agents to the table that deal in commercial property. We also will take just community members to be part of that team, local business owners, pretty much anybody that wants to be involved. I'm open to that because we want to have everybody kind of on the same page about what's right for our community. They have the data and can show us. He shared information with John and I here a while back on a call. They have data where they can show if we have people that live in Durant that go to, the one that always comes up is Chick-fil-A. So they can tell how many customers Chick-fil-A has that lives in Durant. And we may decide, our team locally may decide, hey, Chick-fil-A is not right. We know we have people here. Maybe that's one we don't want here.
We've been on
Hopefully that's not
Chick-fil-A
what
campaign
happens.
for 2 or 3 years.
Everybody loves Chick-fil-A, so that's why I picked that one. But, we'll have a local team that will work with them. So after we get our team together, identify property that's available, they do all the marketing on their side. Retail Strategies will do all the marketing, all the data compilation, everything. And they will train our team about how to go out and recruit, how to read the data and do all of that after we decide we no longer need the contract.
And that your final comment there really answered part of my question.
Right.
This will aid us, assist us in
Yes.
identifying,
Correct.
but then and also the recruitment process and how because that's always been a sensitive issue, retail recruitment,
Right.
and probably as I guess everywhere, but done right. And I mean, we have an opportunity to meet the needs of our citizenry that,
Right.
so they don't have to go to Sherman to go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. And we have a lot of opportunity in the downtown area. So one thing that really stood out to me in this proposal was that they have a separate track to work with our Main Street businesses to identify what's appropriate for the downtown mix.
And how about other retailers, our local retailers? Do they?
Yes. Well, like I said, I'll make sure that I have engagement from local business owners and retail owners to identify, what's missing in the mix. Years ago, decades ago, it was only gap analysis that you looked at. It was tax dollars and what's the potential? How many people do you have living in your community? And what's the potential for money that you can, people can spend in town and they don't have a place to shop for those items, so they go out of town. Well, now they've gotten very high tech with the geolocation on your phones and you fill out surveys, and how many people have been asked when they go shop elsewhere, what's your zip code? That's the information, and all of that feeds into the data that they're going to provide to us and tell us, who's shopping where, and what are some good opportunities for us as far as locating those people in Durant.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Lisa? Are we ready for the vote?
I move approval of the 3-year contract bid for the retail development services to Retail Strategies, Inc.
We have a
Is that
motion.
sufficient?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Gurke.
Aye, motion carries. Are
Thank
you on
you.
the next one too?
I'm on the next one. yeah.
Okay. Under E, under administration, consider approval of expenditure of economic development sales tax funds in the amount of $25,000 to pay for permanent infrastructure for the industrial building located at 115 Law Street, currently occupied by Law Street Brewing Company.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Lisa.
So as you may remember, several months ago when I was hired, you all asked me what my intentions were, what was, on my top list of to-dos. And my number one is business retention and expansion and helping local entrepreneurs. We've spent millions of dollars over the years bringing in jobs, and, we've brought in some great companies and some great jobs, but we've done little for retaining the existing companies, little for helping those existing companies expand. There are 1 or 2 projects here and there, but nothing real, nothing that's made a big impact. So business retention, expansion, entrepreneurship, those are things that should be at the top of our list. We should take care of our own first, right? Goes along with the whole shop local theme, yeah. So we have a local startup company, Lost Street Brewery. They've taken the old bakery down on Lost Street and corner of Lost Street and First. And between purchase of the property and the money that they invest, they're looking at about 1.5 million that they're going to have invested to get this done. That building is zoned industrial. And their next code is a industrial or manufacturer. They manufacture beer. They will have 90% manufacture, and about 10% will be those ancillary things where they'll, sell some t-shirts or mugs or something with their logo on it. That's for a little bit of retail, a way to get people in off the street to try their beer. But it's also, it's a good marketing tool. So 90% industrial or manufacturing is what it's going to be. As you know, the sales tax that the Durant Industrial Authority oversees, the projects have to create jobs. That money can only be spent on infrastructure related things or, buying property, things like that. It can't be spent on admin or anything. So there are several projects as the owners of Lost Street are getting ready to finish up construction and move in. They hope to open in October. There's a lot of work to be done between now and then. So there's you have several pictures there. There's a city sidewalk that is on First Street that you can't walk down that sidewalk. You have to walk in the street or risk, getting hurt. That will have to be replaced. It's pretty rough shape. The city has a policy that if the business owner pays for the, pays for the supplies, then the city workers can do the work on the sidewalk on city-owned property or on that right-of-way. So we're looking at that project. There are several other projects on here that are infrastructure related. There's a drainage problem that is, and I'm still trying to get a hold of someone from the railroad. It's city street, but it's in the railroad easement, but it's the entry to the driveway for this company. There will be trucks that need to get in and out of there to ship product and to bring product in. So that's got to be taken care of pretty quickly. There's also ADA accessibility issues and some infrastructure things that will have to be done to that. Bottom line, the projects that the Durant Industrial Authority voted in favor of paying for are infrastructure related projects that are going to stay with the building. If Lost Street comes in, they go into business, and let's say a year or two down the line, the business fails. We have an industrial building that's ready to go. We can recruit a new company in there immediately. These are, again, infrastructure projects that stay with the building. And I feel confident that, we'll be able to recruit someone else in much easier with those things already taken care of, if something happens to Lost Street. So the Durant Industrial Authority approved up to $25,000 for that project. It may cost more than that for all of these projects, but that burden would be on the business owner.
Okay.
Or they could, I guess, come back at a future date, but is this, these infrastructure improvements, do we do that, or is this, they private contractors or something?
So,
Go ahead.
okay. So the city-owned property or the sidewalks, the street issues, that would be city-owned or city workers that could do that work. This money would pay for the supplies for that. Anything that's located on that private property, it would not be city-owned workers doing the project. It would be contractors. John and I had a discussion, and it looks like it would be best if the business owner had those projects done, and we would reimburse.
Sidewalks too, or the whole thing, or
Sidewalks would follow our policy, our program that we already have in place.
they provide the materials?
They provide the materials, we provide the
We'll do
labor.
the labor. And
Yes, sir.
okay. Are there, other than the sidewalks, is everything else pretty much like a private contractor thing?
I'm still trying to track down the drainage problem, trying to get a hold of somebody with the railroad that can, I'm working with Marty
like the
and trying to
street.
figure out who
Mhm.
would take the lead there. But everything else would be on private property.
So the drainage issue is the street, isn't it? Or the.
Yes, sir.
It is the street.
Yeah.
But it's in a railroad easement or railroad right of way, so.
Water and sewer have no issues?
No, there weren't any water or sewer issues.
I had attached some pictures when we had that rain a couple weeks ago. I went down and took some pictures by the brewery, and that's the ones with all the water in it. That was that rain that we got that was just overnight, and it had quite a bit of water standing on the road.
It doesn't take much rain to fill up that hole there, believe me.
Yes, yeah. So that's an issue that needs to be addressed at some point anyway.
I move approval of the expenditure of the economic development sales tax funds in the amount of $25,000 to pay for permanent infrastructure for the industrial building located at 115 Law Street.
Okay, no further discussion on that. Could we have a second?
I second.
We have
Thank
a
you.
motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Lisa. We are going to temporarily skip administration item number F and go to G. Consider approval of ordinance 1914 establishing limits on noise associated with construction and repair work, establishing hours of operation within which certain noise levels are prohibited, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Durant, Oklahoma, and declaring emergency. And section 1 would be enactment, I guess. Do we have any discussion?
Why did this come about? Is there a problem?
Councilman, this came about, there was an issue where some citizens made some complaints. There was a citation that was written, maybe more than one, on an area where they were doing construction adjacent to some residential areas. The recipient of the citation challenged it, and we had a trial in municipal court, and the court found that essentially our statute didn't necessarily apply. I don't necessarily agree, but that's sort of the role of a lawyer and a judge. I thought our noise ordinance was sufficient, but the court basically said we didn't have an ordinance that specifically applied to construction. And so what we had is a situation where an entity was doing construction outdoors. They were running a track hoe mounted jackhammer and breaking rock up sometimes till 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning within just a few feet of a residential area. And it was very disruptive. So this ordinance seeks to limit construction noise, but between certain hours from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. And it does provide for a certain permit if they want to get a permit on a sort of a one-time basis. A lot of times, maybe if they're pouring a pad, those concrete companies get started really early in the morning. That's usually for a day or two. And so we understand that could be possible and necessary, and they can apply for a permit. But this would seek to limit outdoor construction noise beyond a certain decibel level when it's adjacent to residential areas.
Is there going to be a fee for that permit?
I don't know. That's not something that's set forth in the ordinance, but that would be up to the city office, or we could establish a fee at a later time. But right now, I wouldn't anticipate that it would be a revenue generating fee necessarily, just something that would provide for a single use or single day permit so that they could perform some necessary services that have to take place between 8 and.
So you anticipate if somebody wants to start pouring concrete before
before 7 a.m.
7 a.m. they'll have to get a permit.
Yes, if they're going to create noise beyond the limit that's set forth here. Sometimes pouring concrete doesn't make very much noise. So unless it's something that they're running some equipment or doing something that is very noisy before 7 a.m. But if they're in an industrial area and they're pouring a pad and it's not creating the noise in a residential area sufficient to require that permit, then they wouldn't have to get one. This is just for noise that would be beyond that, in that time window, that would be above 65 decibels.
So they're gonna have to know how much noise they generate. That somebody's have got measure how much noise you generate when you
That's
do a
true.
particular job.
That's true.
Tom, are our code enforcers prepared to take a sound meter out there and actually measure it? Do we have that equipment, I wonder?
That's what
We
it
have
would
had
take.
those discussions, yes, sir.
And that's what it would take. I mean, so you think down the road, if an officer goes out to write a ticket or code enforcement goes out to cite someone, because, and realistically, it's going to be, unless we have code enforcement officers or code enforcement personnel working from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., realistically, this is going to be police officers writing a citation. So, and it's the city's burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone has violated the ordinance. So the answer is yes, we're probably going to need someone with a decibel meter at a certain distance away from the construction activity to record those sound levels.
Another silly question, is this also apply to operational, like a concrete plant mixing and trucks running around, things like that, or is it just construction?
The way the ordinance reads, I think it's probably directed at construction, but it's not necessarily limited to that. It's any kind of, machinery, but I think it's directed at sort of temporary construction in an area, not necessarily manufacturing or industrial noise.
Is it very common to have an ordinance like this for a town our size?
I don't know about a town our size. It's very common to have these types of ordinances. Frankly, I thought our previous ordinance worked because it prohibited any noise that was a nuisance to someone else. So if someone is playing a stereo real loud at 2 a.m, nobody gives it a second thought that an officer ought to be able to cite them for excessive noise. The same level of noise being performed by construction equipment apparently wasn't being interpreted as that our statute was, or our ordinance was sufficient to prohibit that. This does. So if someone was running a jackhammer across your fence 100 yards from your house, this would seek to prohibit that during the hours of 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Otherwise, they can just go do it.
So Tom, for clarification purposes, this time parameters on this ordinance are for this ordinance. The noise ordinance that we have in place now, a citizen can call in at any time for a noise complaint or a noise violation,
Yes,
which should have addressed this as well. I would have thought.
I thought so. The municipal judge did not, and that's fairly common where once you get a judicial ruling, you have to go back and tailor your ordinances or statutes or whatever it is to comply with that. But I think this is this sort of a spot check? Yes. And maybe the noise ordinances in general require a broader look and sort of tailor those, but this seeks to remedy a problem that exists and has existed before. This isn't just targeted toward one person or one event, but it is an issue that exists. And
So will it be the same as the noise ordinance we have now, that a citizen calls to make a complaint? A citizen has to sign the complaint? We've had that discussion. I just didn't know
we've
if
had
that.
that discussion, and that's probably something that needs to be taken up with law enforcement, because a citizen doesn't have to sign a complaint. If I see someone run a stop sign, I can call it in, or if I've got someone that routinely runs a stop sign near my house, I can call and report that, and law enforcement can go out. If they observe that, they can write them a ticket. They don't need my signature or my endorsement or my willingness to come be a witness even. Now, on something like this, if a citizen does call, certainly it makes my job as a prosecutor easier if if the police officer goes out and writes, the construction worker a ticket, it makes my job easier to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt if not only the police officer's observation and his noise reading is used, but if I have 3 citizens that say, Judge, this activity has gone on and I have witnessed it, for for 3 nights leading up to when they got a ticket, and it is loud and it's a nuisance, etc. But it's not mandatory that it shouldn't be mandatory that a citizen has to sign off on a complaint before a citation is given.
We don't require that on grass, trash, weeds. Folks can call it. And I would not like to see us require the citizen have to come down and fill out and file a formal complaint or anything like that.
So where that might be necessary is if the activity is no longer going on when the officer arrives. So if the citizen is complaining of a noise nuisance, let's go back to a stereo, because this one actually has some level readings and stuff associated, but let's go back to a stereo being loud or somebody having a party next door. If the officer arrives and it's no longer going on, the officer could write a ticket, and then when we get to municipal court, I call the officer and say, well, how loud was it? Well, I don't know. It wasn't going on when I got there. So if I don't have a citizen that's willing to be a witness, I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt to the court that there was actually noise loud enough to be a nuisance, and that somebody violated the ordinance. So I can see where it's probably difficult for an officer to file a report on something if that citizen that reported it is not willing to be a witness and the activity is no longer going on when the officer gets there. If the party's still in full mode when the officer gets there and the stereo's still up, we don't need a citizen witness. The officer is there, he observes the violation, writes the citation, and can be the witness in the municipal court.
So it's just pertaining to construction?
Yes.
Repair, not manufacturing?
Not as it's written there. Conceivably, that could be part of it, or it could be expanded to that. Like I said, this is a fairly narrowly focused ordinance, and our entire noise, our noise section in our ordinance probably could be addressed as a whole. But this does not. I don't anticipate that this would be used for manufacturing. This is directed toward construction.
But the current ordinance, the way it's written, could be used.
Sure.
So just so I understand, the current ordinance stays in place. This is a new ordinance added to the section, correct?
That is correct.
Gotcha.
Another question, Tom. Over the years and several years ago, we spent some time, Marty, I don't remember if you were involved in that, but regarding, I see the word derrick. I don't know if that's like a water well derrick or an oil well derrick, but we addressed and came up with the either code or ordinances for oil drilling within the city limits. Does this conflict with that?
It doesn't conflict with that because this just applies to construction.
Okay.
Construction or repair. So if you're building something or if you're repairing something, and really even a house, if you've got, I mean, this would apply to residential construction. If you're building a house, if you can, if the levels of noise are above a certain level between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m., that's what this applies to. So you can't get out there and be roofing with your air guns at 1 a.m. just because it's cool.
Okay, any further discussion? Are we ready to call for the vote?
I move we approve ordinance 1914,
Section 1.
section 1.
Yeah, I'm sorry, enactment under A. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Who was that? Two of you? Okay. Did you get that, Cindy? We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
No.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number B, consider emergency clause. We need a motion.
Motion to approve section 2, emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
No.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 5, public hearing. We're now moving into the public section part of our meeting. Number A, under public hearing, 2020 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Small Cities, application requesting funding for water treatment plant improvements. Ms. Becca.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, figured I'd be too muffled. We actually conducted a public hearing for our application in June, and due to the change of our council meeting date, I was not able to get the required number of days notice so the public would have plenty of time to attend. So Commerce asked us just to do a repeat, and I did get everything posted. And so this public hearing is related to our 2020 CDBG Community Development Block Grant application, which we are eligible for $152,222.22. And the entire project, 600 and some change. $674,520, which $522,298 would be the match, which the city has already planned for that and budgeted the funds. This will be what they call SCADA improvements to our water treatment plant, which is electrical improvements. Trying to see the exact description of that. Yeah. Sorry, thought I had that right there. It's electrical and something. John, do you see that? Here it is, electrical controls improvements, which also stands for SCADA. It's to help our water treatment plant to communicate and be able to make it run more efficiently. The CDBG grant guidelines require that their projects be completed within low to moderate income areas. And with the recent HUD guidelines, the city actually qualifies for that. And I have that in my memo. It was 54.07%. So we meet that 51% eligible low to moderate income level, which puts us in a category for CDBG funds. The grant is being reviewed and we expect the award around September. And then there'll be 2 years to complete. And this will go along with other water treatment improvements that are planned already. Anyone have any questions?
Since this is a public hearing, is there anyone else that has either wants to speak for or against? Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? We'll now call for the motion. Do we have a motion?
The motion would occur in 4F.
Correct. You're just, you
Okay.
close the
Okay.
public hearing.
Yeah, okay. Let's bring it forward, yes. Okay, we'll move on to B. Item number B, under public hearing, consideration of PC 2020-13, ordinance 1908, rezoning for property near the intersection.
That's, I'm sorry, Mayor, that's not associated with that one.
Oh, I'm going to have to go back. Will you tell me to wait for it?
I mean, you don't have to do the resolution now, but I'm just. Yes. Okay, we're finished. Thank you. I think everyone has signed the sign-in sheet. I apologize. I thought we were
That's
on
all
the
right.
resolution.
That's no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under 5B, under public hearing, consideration of PC 2020-13, ordinance 1908, rezoning for property near the intersection of Peppermint Lane and Redbud Lane. Is there anyone here to speak on?
That would be me, Miss Mayor.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, my apologies for not being there in person. I'm dealing with some family stuff right now out of town. So this item was heard by the Planning Commission
Can we
this
turn the
last
volume
month.
up a little?
See, is that better? I'm sorry. Is that better?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The applicant did originally apply for R3. However, the Planning Commission recommended that they move to R1 instead. And so they went ahead and the applicant agreed to move with R1. There is a replat that is along with this, and the Planning Commission and staff recommended that if council approves this, that with the Planning Commission, that the replat is conditional upon the approval of the rezoning. What they're wanting to do is they're wanting to put 4 lots there and build 4 single-family homes is what they're wanting to do, which is why they went with the R1 zoning. The future land use map does show the low density residential, so that's good to go. We have not heard anything out of the public. I'm not for certain if the applicant is there, but if they are, then he can be able to answer any of their questions. But the recommendation from staff and the Planning Commission is to go ahead and do the rezoning for R1.
Danielle, this is Tom Markham. I have a question. That would require access to those 4 lots from Peppermint Lane.
Correct.
Is there a condition upon the approval of this that Peppermint Lane be upgraded to city street standards?
There was not at the Planning Commission meeting. When I spoke with the previous street superintendent, he made a comment that with it being that it is a public street, and with that being the case, then it would be up to the city to do the paving, but they never did because it was only a couple houses back there.
I'll remind the council that just across the street from this, not all that long ago, a plat was approved for a neighborhood development that was approved for some reason with a gravel street. And it's, take that for what it is, but I don't think the council should be approving plats with gravel streets, and Peppermint Lane, I believe, is gravel.
It is, but it's a city street already. It's not part of the plat. The plat starts at the edge of the right of way. Much as Commercial Lane was already a city street pre-existing, and he platted property on both sides, but the road was not part of his official plat. It was pre-existing. Now, our understanding at the time was that meant that's on our shoulders. And we obviously haven't got out to pave it yet, but if it's a new development and the road is a part of their property that they are making and going to dedicate to the city, they would absolutely be held accountable to improve the road.
I do, just to let the council know that if they
Can we
approve a
force them to
residential area
improve?
next to a gravel street. That's what's,
Can we force them to improve the road? That'd be brilliant. But it's already a city street.
That was a previous council, correct?
yes.
I think we know better.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item?
And just by information, I think Marty is correct that it's not on the property owner to improve this street since it's already a city street. But the council would have to consider whether they want to commit to improving the street adjacent to a residential area before approving a plat for a residential area.
And the plat, it's not for, it's the rezoning is the only thing the council is going to be approving. The planning commission did a conditional approval of the replat as long as the rezoning went through.
Did the zoning, I didn't understand you. Did the zoning commission approve this, Danielle?
Yes, they recommended approval with this, and they did a conditional approval of the replat.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak for or against? Item B. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? If not, do we have a discussion? Anyone have anything they wish to say before we call for the vote?
I just need a little bit of clarification. It's a city street. They're wanting to replat it and put 4 lots that face Peppernut. I'm not sure how to say this. Are we punishing the property owner if we deny it because the city has not paved that street? I guess that's what I'm not understanding.
That's certainly an interpretation. I agree. I mean, if the city has at some point adopted Peppernut Lane as a street without being paved.
Right.
So that's certainly an interpretation of it. And is that fair to the property owner? I don't know, but I just wanted to make the council aware that if you approve the rezoning and the subsequent plat, it is you're approving a residential development on a gravel road.
That is a city street.
It is a city street.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate Marty's comments earlier that those are city streets, or that was a city street, that commercial lane.
If I might make another angle on this,
Let
if
me
this was
finish my-
Sunnyside Road,
Let me finish my thought, please. And I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is the reference to previous councils. Previous councils made their decisions based on information, the best information available at that time. So I don't think it's wise for us to be critical of, and the public, of previous council's decisions.
There was no judgment there, Jerry.
Let's move on, please. Marty, what were you going to say?
as an example, Sunnyside Road is also a dirt road.
Mhm.
And if somebody wanted to plat their land to sell it in pieces and build multiple houses on it, again, I don't think it's our responsibility to make them repave that roadway.
If it's
This is
already,
not the only dirt road in town. We have several that are dirt roads. Someday we hope to pave all of them, but they were all county roads we've adopted over the years and just haven't been paved yet. So
okay, thank you, Marty. Are we ready to call for the vote? Do we have a motion?
I move approval of PC 2020-13, ordinance 1908.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, number
I didn't see.
C under 5, Public hearings, consideration of PC 2020-14 ordinance number 1909 rezoning for property at 227 South First Avenue.
Madam Mayor, we need
Yes.
to go back to the previous item and adopt or at least vote on section 2, the emergency of ordinance 1908.
Oh, there's an emergency on.
Do we need to amend the motion for section 1? Okay. Move approval of ordinance 1908, section 2.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second on section 2, number B. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Now, number 5C, consideration of PC 2020-14 ordinance number 1909 rezoning for property at 227 South First Avenue.
Yes, so this one is another one of mine. The Mackey family is looking to rezone this property so that they can use it for warehousing of appliances and some of their equipment, or not equipment, but their product for their business. The applicant originally applied for I-2, and again, the planning commission did through some discussion decided to, and the applicant agreed to go with an I-1 recommendation rather than I-2, primarily due to with I-1, it's going to be I-2 has a more of intrusive, well, not intrusive, but yeah, you're able to do more within I-2 than you are on I-1. But with the warehouse, you can do it in I-1 or I-2. So that's kind of where that came from. The planning commission recommendation and staff recommendation is to go ahead and do a rezone for the property to I-1 light industrial.
Okay. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak? Pro, con? I see Mr. Mackey here.
Yes, we just decided to go with the I-1 because it's going to be just a warehouse.
Okay.
And to our understanding, there's another warehouse south of us that's being built that I think is also I-1. So we're going to use it for a warehouse, I think 60 by 140 or something like that. So strictly a warehouse situation. That's it.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Any discussion from the council? If not, are we ready to call for the vote?
I make a motion that to approve PC 2020-14 ordinance number 1909, section 1.
I second.
We have a motion, a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. We do have the emergency clause. Do we have a motion?
Motion for section 2.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. That concludes the end of our public hearings, and we will now go back to item 4F under administration. 4F, consideration to approve leverage resolution 2020-31 to replace resolution 2020-22, committing cash leverage match to include the required 1-to-1 match to successfully complete the fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Small Cities Project for the publicly owned water treatment plant improvements. Ms. Becker again.
Okay, yes. And if I could make a note for the public hearing minutes, which I will also discuss for this resolution, there is a 1-to-1 cash match requirement. So Cindy, if we can add that. The resolution that the council passed on June 16th when I wrote the resolution is normally what we've used in the past. And I just put in that we were committing to the 1-to-1 cash match, a minimal of that. Because as I mentioned a while ago, the entire project is over $600,000. So Commerce asked that we create a new resolution stating the entire amount. So I've got in there that, that the city will provide the 522,298 or necessary funds exceeding the 1-to-1 match, because we know it's going to be more than the 1-to-1, but because it is an estimate, we're not for sure it's going to be that full $522,000. So, and Commerce has approved this resolution to replace the 2020-22.
Any questions for Ms. Becker?
Move approval of leverage resolution 2020-31 to replace resolution 2020-22.
We have a motion for 4F. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Kuby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Item number 6, executive session. Number A under executive session would be consider executive session for confidential communication with attorney concerning pending claim against the city of Durant, Sullivan, ETAL, I don't know how to pronounce that legally, Tom, versus City of Durant, Oklahoma, CG 2019-55. This executive session authorized by 25 OS 307B4 of the Oklahoma State Statute. May we have a motion that we now convene into executive session?
So moved.
Did you make?
I'll make the motion.
Oh.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Kuby.
Aye. We are now in executive session.
Are you staying, Danielle?
No, I've got to get to another visitation. I'll be, yeah, I have
See you later.
All right, see you later. Thank you.
No, but it's got a slide-in filter bank. And see how it sits like a square? Yeah. This is the best fitting one I've had. It's got you can pull it out and that's strong. Little white, pops over the outside direction.
That's what I was gonna say. John's mentioned this, getting some massive off employees. We need to get we've got tons of money. I mean, we got 3 months left and we are now only up to, I have no idea.
Oh, really?
Yes. But I know, I know, I feel like I'm a part of it. Because they're gonna close it. At midnight. So. Depending on the line of jams, if it's a piece of equipment, and we've got the money, you just write a check and hold it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And then we got all this money, and I understand the state's concept, you say that we have. But I think with things evolving like they are, I think that is carried on into January. With the holidays and stuff. You got
You know, buddy.
Of course.
And maybe more responsibility.
That's October. That's October.
Yeah. Yeah, come right to the edge. I saw that when I was coming over. I thought, geez, I get some rain out here. Yeah, we get them mosquitoes. Yeah, it is now. Yeah. I'll let you know. Yeah. Good.
Kind of met the middle right here.
We went to Madison Park a few days of vacation. Yeah, it was nice till I started climbing up that out mountain. Then I realized I'm not who I used to be.
That area right there, I don't want area.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Pretty cool. It's not something that you just like a shot picture of an owl or a sidewalk.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Could I have everyone's attention? I hate to break up the party, guys, but we might not get to meet him. Okay, we need to have a motion that we convene back into regular session.
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear. Councilmember Tomlinson. Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, we are back in regular session. Item 6B, consider action pursuant to agenda item 6A above, no action. Is there any new business under number 7? If not, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
We have a motion for adjournment. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear. Councilmember Tomlinson. Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, we are now adjourned from the regular council meeting. Let the record show that it is 7:22 and the Durant City Utilities Authority is now in session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Shear. Trustee Tomlinson. Trustee Morris.
Here.
Vice Chairman Brittingham.
Here.
Chairman Groby.
Here, let the record show we have a quorum. Our order of business, the first thing is the consent item. Number A, consider approval of regular meeting minutes of July 14th, 2020. Any discussion or do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent items.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear.
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson. Trustee Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham.
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. Under number 3, information items. Are there any questions anyone has for on any of these items?
Yes, I have a question, probably Marty and Tom may need to. My question is on the Larkspur Street project, which I know still involves purchase of land, which we may not be able to discuss in open record, but
We are closing that project at the moment. If and when the land comes available, we will come back to that project and resume. But I've got to get the contractor out of there. We've held them up now for 6 months. So they're going to go ahead and finish what they have to do on the original part. And we're going to make our final payment to them. And we'll worry about the rest of it when the land's available.
And there's been ongoing negotiation for the land for a long time, and then we had a deal for the land, and then there's been some deaths in the family of the owners of the land. There was some unavailability of their attorney for a long time, and I don't know what the issue was. Every once in a while, I'm able to raise them. I think that they would still sell the property to us. There's been no indication they won't sell the property to us. We just can't get it over the hump. So the project, I don't have any reason to believe that it can't go forward at some point, but we just haven't been successful in getting the property. The alternative, which is not a great one, but it's a possibility if we ever get to that point where we feel like the project has to go forward, we could condemn the property. And I don't think under a condemnation, I don't think it would cost us more than what the agreed purchase price of the property is. Takes a little bit of a process, and it's never super pleasant to have to get condemned property and take it by legal means like that. But that would be an option if we get to that point.
So you'll essentially close the project.
Right now, we're going to close the project so we can get the contractor paid and off the project. And then we will either rebid it later, or we'll do it ourselves, or we'll have that discussion. Yeah, to be honest, they've done most of the hard work already. We kind of got to that last little piece of asphalt, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Marty. Item 4 under administration, A, consider approval of agreement number C-2020-52 with Wall Engineering for engineering services of proposed wastewater treatment facility rehabilitation.
So this is the agreement. If you'll recognize, Brandon's agreements are usually a couple pages long. This is a little longer than that. Anytime you do something that's going to affect the permit at your treatment facility, it kind of, the state throws extra paperwork at you. So this is, and I've gone through the entirety of it with Brandon, and this is the agreement we're going to have for the duration of the project. Remember, this is a $12 million project. This is not a little project. This is a lot of work, evaluation up front. This is going to be a lot of construction. And then, of course, the sign-offs and the inspections at the end. And Brandon's going to walk us through the whole thing. The pages aren't even numbered to where it's easy to find, but about halfway through the packet, there's a page that talks about compensation packet, BC1, page 1, and it actually has the costs associated with this on it. I can't read the whole thing to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have if I can figure them out.
Tom, have you reviewed this?
I have. And Marty's correct, this is longer than the normal contract, but it's a fairly standard contract.
It's very standard,
for this
yes.
type of project.
There are even some areas in here where it basically asks a question and expects him to give an answer, and he put none will be needed on this job. It's just a standard piece of paper that he's got to go in and fill out all the details on.
Any other questions?
John, your recommendation?
We approve. Yes, sir.
Move approval of C-2020-52 with the Wall Engineering.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Is there any new business? If not, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Make the motion, we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn out of the utility authority. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, we're now adjourned out of the Durant Utility Authority. It is now 7, I can't see the delay. Okay. 7:27, and the Durant Airport Authority is now in session. We'll now call that to order, and would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Shear,
Here.
trustee Tomlinson,
Here.
trustee Morris,
Here.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Here.
Chairman Groby,
Here, let the record show we have a quorum. Our first item, consent item, number A, 1A, consider approval of regular meeting minutes of July 14th, 2020. Any discussion or do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
Trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham.
Aye.
Chairman Groby,
Aye. Motion passes. Number 3, information items. Number A, airport manager monthly report. Does anybody wish to have our airport manager come forward and give a report or talk to her? Or
I would like to congratulate her on the availability of unleaded fuel right now.
is there any other discussion on that one? Okay, under number 4, is she going to come forward and? I didn't know if they wanted you to come forward and give a report. If nobody wants her to come forward and give a report, it's the information item. Then we'll go to number 4, administration. Number A, consider authorization to accept, if granted, fiscal year 2020 airport FAA AIP grant. Miss Katie.
So this one's pretty straightforward. We were granted almost 100%, 99.99 something percent of our windsock project this year. And that only requires a $1 match. I think the total amount there was $28,121, which I provided some supplemental documents for you.
$1, huh?
$1.
We can't beat that. Anybody have any questions? Any further discussion? Are we ready to call for the vote?
Is that, let's see, do we just need a motion to accept, or is there any grant numbers or anything?
Correct, it's,
I move we accept the fiscal year 2020 airport FAA AIP grant.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
Trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby,
Aye. Motion carries. Number 5, new business. If there's no new business, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. We have a motion and a second, Cindy.
yes.
Would you please, would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
Trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby,
Aye. Motion adjourned, meeting adjourned. The motion wasn't adjourned. Steve, I think you made a.